I'm so glad Thanksgiving's over. I don't know what to do. I am the world's least celebratory person, and I'm in the house. My sons and my sons are very. I hope it ain't nothing, y'all, because I ain't getting up. Tell you how tired I am. But anyway, I'm glad Thanksgiving is over. Because my sons, it was the four of us, my two sons, two youngest, and me and my sister. And my sister and I don't get along in the same way my sons don't get along. We have extraordinarily different personalities. Like, she says I talk too much, which you do. And I said to talk too much during the movie, which you do. But I kind of think, it's Thanksgiving. I can watch TV quietly all day long. Why can't I chit-chat? But she don't want me to chit-chat. And then she watches a lot of dark stuff, serial killers and this and John Wayne Gacy and Arthur Fish and Arthur Shaw, not Arthur Fish, Albert Fish, Arthur Shaw Cross, Ed Campbell, Ed Gein, although Ed Gein, he is the epicenter of every just tremendous bad, from Psycho to Leatherface to Texas Chainsaw Massacre to Buffalo Bill to Silence of the Lamb. All of this was based on this one cat who got so enmeshed with his mama. And his mother was ultra religious. And she well, if it's a burger, bite him. Oh. So I'm back. There wasn't no fight, no nothing. What happened was my sister walked out of her bedroom, and for some reason, Decker has met her before. Decker is scared to death of her. So every time she turns a corner, all 4'10", 106 pounds of her, turns a corner, he goes wild. And then Zora goes wild at Decker, because Zora knows she family. For some reason, Decker can't figure it out. I don't know what's wrong with him. Decker looking at me funny because he hears me call his name, but I don't know what his problem is. But anyway, I was talking about Ed Gein. He got very immersed with his mother, who was ultra religious. Now, this is the fun stuff that I learned from her. Ultra religious, and they got intertwined in a way. And she taught him that all sex was bad, that all women were bad, and that sex within marriage is okay, but it's not a good, she used to harangue him with hours and hours and hours of religious material. And he became so enmeshed with his mother that when she died, he couldn't dig her up because her grave was cemented, so he dug up a lady next door and started stuffing them. And he made whenever somebody died, woman would die, he would dig up their grave and he would sew together their skin and make stuff out of them, including a bodysuit. So all of those other shows are based on this one guy who seemed so unassuming and just quiet, and he was just nuts. But anyway, it was fascinating, and so many horror movies are based on that. We humans can do intentionally things we could not think of creatively that are as horrible as the stuff that we do intentionally. I'm sorry. What is wrong with us? Can you tell I'm a little cranky? I don't know what the deal is, so I'm going to leave the crank in the bank. Did I say subscribe and notify? Somebody told me I should say it earlier. Like these people who asked me a question. This woman said, her name is, I don't know if I want to say her name or not. CP. I'll give her initials. Hi, Miss Mrs. Tolerated. I love that. She was going to put Mrs. Toller, but the machine said tolerated. And for the most part, within my family, I am simply tolerated. I got a lot of quirky behavior. But anyway, I live in NYC. In May, I had surgery for cancer. I've been watching your show for the past months while taking chemo. I've had a lot of people. I had one guy said he had a brain injury and he learned to speak again by watching divorce court episodes over and over again. He got a laugh and he got his language back. That was years ago. But stuff like that sticks with me. If I've ever done anything worthwhile that made people better, I love that because my everybody I know was so disappointed when I took divorce court. Just so disappointed. It's like, you were doing good on the bench. I had a guy who acted like a friend of mine. Well, he considered himself a friend of mine and wrote a nasty article about me. He came into my chambers early in the morning, like 8 o'clock, because my first doc is at 9, so I figure I got to get in 8 to prepare. What you need, baby?
I was just going to say what's up.
Oh, okay. What's up? That was my son. Coming to say what's up to his mommy. But anyway, what was I talking? My senior moments are getting more frequent and lasting longer. Usually if I think about it for a while, I can figure out what I was talking about. But now, not so much. Part of it is I have too many doors open, but the other part of it is, I don't know, I'm just old. But anyway, I was getting on the floor the other day and my son laughed at me getting up. And I said, I'm closer to 70 than 60. You be quiet. Let me kick you in the knee. He hurt his knee, but he kind of, I wasn't going to kick him in his knee. It was just something funny to say. And the tangent train went out of the station before I recalled what I was talking about, which was it? Y'all just gonna have to bear with me because this is gonna be happening over and over and over again. I have things written down, but none of the stuff that I'm talking about. I was talking about the guy who wrote the nasty article about me, and then the next week asked me for a favor, and I did it too. I didn't want him to think it upset me, and it really didn't. It upset my husband, but it was like his article was basically, she's going on TV to be a buffoon, and the rep that she has around here, because my first election I won by 6 votes. On election 1 I won by 1 vote. There was a recount, I won by 3, and then there was another recount and I won by 6. So I kept picking up votes. But anyway, he wrote it, and then he asked me for a favor, and I did it, and then my mother didn't want me to do it because she thought it was tacky. And she says, she thinks Kajani Brown Jackson is it? I can't even sing. My sucker is running slow like. But anyway, now I know that it was the right thing to do because I run into too many people who don't thank me insincerely, thank me so sincerely that they cry. And they can't even talk to me and they can't even tell me why. So I've done some good. And my mother also thought my book was dumb, My Mother's Rules. And I said, Mother, you have no idea how brilliant you are. You just think you just getting along, but you have learned to get along in a way that is so incredible. She was, I found out one day, years ago, I went into a grocery store, not a grocery store, a beauty shop, and Marla Gibbs was there. And she was sitting in the chair, and somebody walked over and said, hey, I'd like to introduce you to. And she looked up and she said, you look like Chief. And I said, who's Chief? She said, Tony Livingston. And that was my mother. And I said, I'm Chief's daughter. And I said, why did you call her Chief? She said, because she was always telling everybody what to do, and she was always right. So if you didn't know what to do, you asked Chief. So that's why I call her Chief now in some of my things. But anyway. And so I'm no longer embarrassed about the job I took. Having said that, I'm going to answer a question and leave y'all to it, to do it. So I'm going back to the question. Well, now what question did I answer before? Oh, okay, I guess it was one. Yeah, CP. She said mistolerated. Oh, my brain is Swiss cheese this morning. I didn't even have any champagne or nothing last night. I don't know what's going on. My sister loves champagne. I had to have that for her too. And now somebody's calling me. Hang on. I'm at the epicenter of all manner of nonsense today. So I'm going back to the question, and I'm getting off this thing before the whole thing just falls apart. My name is so-and-so, live in NYC. I had cancer. I had surgery for cancer, and I've been watching your show for the past months while taking chemo. You sure lift me up. I'm goofy and ridiculous, and I make people laugh, and I think that's good. I've heard that from a few people. So my reason for writing you is to ask how you are doing after the passing of your husband. Better. He never leaves me, but I do talk to him every day now. And that helps. Just talking to him every day. I talk to him like, hey, you see what happened here? Now, if you were here, that wouldn't have happened, but you're not here. Where did you go? Just making jokes and laughing. And stuff that he would have thought was funny, I'll tell him about it. I don't have to not get to talk to him just because he ain't here. Jimmy Carr said that he's a comedian, and I found that to be true. So my reason for writing to you is to ask, how are you doing after passing my husband? Better. It never leaves you, though. There are certain songs that will put you into tears. There is a sadness that just settles right back here for me. And that I can fall into it given the right circumstances. Oh, I love you. God bless you with your family. Oh, I thought it was a question. I had 2 questions up here. That was just a sweet note. Well, thank you. I'll say your name then, because it's nothing. I thought you were asking for advice. Carolyn Peters. See, that's what I read them all. Oh, there's more action out there. I read them all, and then I get confused. And don't let my temporary disassembly make you lose faith. Because I know when I'm disassembled. That's the key. No, can't nobody always be okay. But you got to know where your head is. Bathroom mirror mandate. my mother's rules. In case of emergency, I crack that sucker open and I read what my mother would have told me. She isn't here. I don't talk to her much. I read her. I'm going to talk to E and read her. I'm going to take my hands out of my hair, look you straight in the face, ask you to subscribe, and what do? Notify. And I promise I'll be more awake next time. But the question you have to ask yourself is, what's wrong with you? See, I think I got a good list. And it helps me keep from suffering from what really ails me, which are a plethora of things, a cornucopia of things. Huge, gargantuan, gnarly weirdness. But I don't let it run me. And we've all got some weird working somewhere in the back of our brains. Let's not be embarrassed about it. Let's not lie about it. You don't have to tell nobody. You tell your psychiatrist. But you gotta know what's wrong with you. And to be dissatisfied without being discouraged is to be motivated. And you gotta be a little bit dissatisfied with yourself so you can motivate yourself to be your better self. I don't know what's wrong with you, but you should. I know what's wrong with me. Did I see this? All loud. I know what's wrong with me. Wrote it in both of my books, My Mother's Rules and Dear Sonali. And what you will note is, although there are similarities, there are differences. Because a book that begins and ends with the same phrase is a missive with nothing in between. If you show up here and you end there, this is just me. This is just me being dissatisfied with just me, but not upset or discouraged by it. I'm just working on it. Let's all work on it. Bye.